It started off, I had to pick someone up, but I've gone there, and as I'm waiting for the person I have to pick up that is in class, then what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna walk around. I sit in a class because I also heard something one time on television, in that there was a person who was going to Harvard, and he actually was not a student, but he would just walk into the class, sit in the lecture, and listen and take notes. And he got the syllabus from the students in the class, make a photocopy that tells them what book to go buy. You can go buy any book on earth if you want. So you go buy the book, you sit in the class, you learn the information, you study the book, you have the knowledge. You can act on that knowledge. But what's the difference between him and the students that are sitting next to him? Is that they are going to get a thing at the end of these years, a piece of paper that says this person followed this curriculum and they graduated from this school. Well, the person who just went and sat in the class is going to have the same knowledge and information. And they had the books, they're going to study the books, and then they're going to use that knowledge and information. Similar to who else did that? Bill Gates. He went to Harvard. He sat there. He sat in classes. Yeah, his daddy was paying for the class, but he didn't finish. And he has one of the biggest corporations that the world has ever known. What's the other dude? Mark Zuckerberg. He sat in class at Harvard. He didn't finish. His daddy was paying for his college too, right? But he didn't finish. And he has one of the biggest corporations known to man on the planet Earth. What's his name? Steve Jobs. He went to Stanford, right? He sat in the class. He didn't finish. He created the biggest corporation on planet Earth ever known to man. So I'm telling you that it's it's what you do, it's the action that is going to utilize that information. So if what you're going to do with that knowledge is present the paper to an employer and say, hey, it's official. I have this knowledge in my head. Let me push these levers for you. And that job says, okay, you can come push these levers. We'll give you X amount of dollars per hour to push those buttons. And then you say, okay, and you do it. Whereas the person who was in that class with you, who may have a degree or may not, they're going to use that information that they gathered and they're going to go out and do something. So that's what I'm saying. I will steal information. I will steal education. And then I'm using that word steal because I look at it like this, man. I get mad when somebody telling me this one. If I hear you say this, I'm not college material, or college ain't for everybody. Shut up. That's how I feel about that. That's ignorant. That's an imbecile to say that. For one, what it is somebody who ain't never been to college. The only people who going to say that are people who ain't never been to college. College ain't for everybody. Yeah, well, who is it for? Who is for? Man, let me tell you this, and anybody who went to college know this. Man, it's dumbasses sitting in class, and they sit there and they just sit there, and they listen, and then when it comes time to take the test, they do their best, and they do all right, or they don't. But these dumbasses just sit in class, they do the best they can, they do their work, they do a little bit, and they graduate. So stop talking about college material. And then, talking that, college ain't for everybody. No, actually, it is for everybody. College is for everybody. And then, what? So this will make me so mad about it. Do you recall in American history, there was a point in time where if I had a book, the whole society would want to kill me for reading a book. They would want to kill you for reading a book. So that makes me think like, well, damn, what's in a book that will make a whole civilization pick out an individual population, as it would be dangerous if we let that population acquire knowledge from a book. Hey, just that right there is, I mean, I'm shaking almost just to think about that. You mean to tell me that it's a concerted effort from an entire country's population to make sure that you don't read a book, because the information in that book could free you in some sort of way, could turn the tables against your oppressor? What? That make me rush to a book. I'm like, what book can I get next? Give me a book. Man, so just that, I had that information when I was a little kid. That came to my knowledge, to my awareness, that at some point in history, for an African American to read a book was a crime, was a serious crime that people could be punished for, could go to jail for even helping me get a book. And so my mother and father had a little bookshelf filled with encyclopedias. You know, back in the day, they used to come out door to door trying to sell encyclopedias. Well, they had bought some of that. We had encyclopedia. We had like a science encyclopedia, and then like just a bookshelf that was full of good stuff like that. And so when I learned that it was illegal at some point to educate African Americans, I was like, oh, let me go over here to these encyclopedias that's dusty. I'm finna get in this. I gotta learn this. And so I just, just reading the dictionary. I was like, I heard that I think I heard Malcolm X read the dictionary. I was like, let me try that. Just reading every word. That was too boring. So I said, well, let me read the encyclopedias then. That's interesting information, right? So from that standpoint right there, I'm pursuing education with a vengeance, and I don't care nothing about what it costs, because for one, I'm only engaging in it because I feel that I can I can multiply this education way beyond what it's gonna cost me. So I don't care nothing about how much an education costs. And then check this out. You say, well, you can't get rid of that. You can't get it all. You can't, they're gonna always be, you're gonna always have this bill. Man, I don't care about that. Check this out. The government, a creditor, anybody, especially education. All right, if I'm not paying you for my student loan, which went into default before, I can tell you that story too. I got it out. I'm good right now. But let's say I refuse to pay. What they gonna do? Keep coming at you talking about pay us our money, pay us our money, pay us our money. That's all. They cannot repossess the information. It's too late. I already got it. I already have the knowledge. So this long rant that I'm telling you this about, I'm just giving you my opinion on these factors why I don't care nothing about this old concept of education costing too much, student loans costing too much, and the different ways in which you need to don't go to these universities and all this here. Man, don't listen to that. Any way that you gonna get knowledge in your head is the way you should get knowledge in your head. I don't care what it costs. If Harvard told me, hey, you can come over here and if I thought Harvard had the most top-notch, top-level information that I can access, and if it was the information that I need to get my goals accomplished, if they told me, hey, we'll do that for you, it's gonna cost you $1 million, give me the paper. So I'll sign that. Because first of all, once I get the knowledge, the takeover is going down. And so if I got the knowledge, hey, man, I don't care what it costs. I'm going to parlay that. So what you're saying when you say, oh, the student loan is going to be too high. So you're counting yourself out. You underestimating yourself again. So you saying that, well, damn, I'm only going to be able to get a little punk ass job. I'm going to pay that back. Well, why are you doing it then? If you're going to get it, if your goal is that little punk ass job, why are you pursuing education anyway? Don't pursue education for a job. When I say we, I'm talking about the community. And when I'm saying we, in this specific sentence, I mean the African American community. We don't have no time for wasting around with people who only want to do a job. You only want to go over there and work for this guy, for that company, for that corporation. Nah, man. Now, I'm not saying I don't want you working for that corporation. I'm saying that shouldn't have been the reason why you went to school. And that corporation should be a step along your path to creating that thing that you're trying to create on your agenda, the reason you went to school in the first place. So after you went to school, then the only reason you over here at this corporation is because they training you on the stuff you just learned about. So you just became educated. Now you need experience on that which you just were educated about. Now, after you got the experience and the education, then you go forth and you do it for yourself. That's where I don't care. At that point, now you don't care nothing about how much that education costs you, because now you're about to put it into effect. So stop crying about these student loans all the time. And education is not for the purpose of a job. We don't need you if that's what you're talking about. Go stop listening to me if that's all you're talking about. So back to my question. What are you doing to help your children's education? And from a financial planning standpoint, I just did that whole long rant, but how it relates to finances, I can tell you that real quick. So basically, you need to get a 529 account. 529 is a savings plan for college. It's a tax advantaged college savings account. And for education of K through 12, you can use Coverdale savings account, also referred to as the education IRA. And there's a tax advantages. You got the lifetime learning credit, and there's some other. I'm a tax preparer for some people, but I'm not a tax pro. So talk to your CPA about that. But understand that there's many ways to save for college. College savings is one of the goals that you need to have listed and have in effect as you work with your finance professional. But my key point that I'm trying to make is education is priceless. There is no price you can put on education. And education is not for the purpose of a job. Education is to improve your life. Education in and of itself is valuable. And I mean, valuable is not even a good enough, strong enough word. Just information, new information and new understanding in your brain is just like pleasure. It's just like, I just feel it just pleasures me to learn stuff. I just like feel sun rays just shining from me when in the cartoon and somebody somebody come up with that new idea and they got the light bulb go off over their head. That's how it really feels. It just feels like light. It's just shooting out of my brain. And when I'm reading something or I just found out something, I could be listening to anything, radio, YouTube, or just TV, anything, and then it could be one little key thing that's said, and that was the missing link that went with this other information that I got last week, that went with this other information I got 5 years ago, that went with this other information I got 2 years ago, that went with this other information that I got yesterday. But that thing I just heard is what made me understand how all of those things work together. That's how education works. You need it from everywhere. There is no place that you're not gonna learn from. You're gonna learn something from everywhere you go. So from a standpoint of college, don't discount the knowledge itself. Career planning is one thing, and it's an important thing, and it's something that we need to do. But don't misconstrue that with education. Career planning and your education, two different things. They can have some synergy, some crossover, but don't assume that one is tied to the other. I'm gonna stop there, holler back.